Good evening. Welcome to the National LGBT Bar Association's Out and Proud Corporate Counsel Award Reception. My name is Darcy Chemnitz, and I'm the Executive Director of the organization. And we're delighted to bring the Out and Proud Corporate Counsel Award Reception to Seattle for the first time. Of course, we need to thank our sponsors, whose generous support made this evening possible. Our gold level sponsors tonight are Reed Smith and Perkins Coie. Reed Smith generously donates office space to our organization on K Street in Washington, D.C., and we appreciate the firm letting us call their home our home for the past 3 years. And we very much want to thank our longtime sponsor, Perkins Coie. I know there's quite a few representatives here tonight from Perkins Coie. For those of you who aren't, you're probably still stuck on the roads, but we do want to point you out. We thank each of you for all of your continued support of the LGBT bar. And of course, we want to thank our many silver and bronze level sponsors. We are very grateful for all your support, and all of that information of the other sponsors are in tonight's program. So ladies and gentlemen, it is truly an honor for me to introduce Microsoft's General Counsel and Executive Vice President of Legal and Corporate Affairs, Mr. Brad Smith.
I want to say it's a real pleasure for all of us from Microsoft to be here this evening with all of you. It's a great group, it's a great event, and I have to say it's a real pleasure for Mary and me to be here together. In part, because we actually usually tag team these kinds of events. Either one of us goes or the other of us goes. And so it's nice to have the chance to be here together. And I have to say it's nice to be here together because whenever I do have the chance to come to something like this with Mary, I can't help but think of the conversation that the two of us had about 9 years ago. We sat down because we really wanted to put our department on a path where we would strive to be a leader in the profession on issues around diversity. And when we had that conversation, we both recognized that before we would ever dream of claiming to lead anything in the diversity field, frankly, the first thing we had to do was just sort of get good. And we recognized that was going to take a lot of work. It was going to take a lot of help from a lot of people across our department. And frankly, it would take a lot of learning because we had a lot of good intentions, but we both recognized that there was a lot that we needed to learn. We've been really fortunate to learn a great deal, and 9 years later, I still think we have a lot to learn, to tell you the truth. But I definitely want to single out a couple of people who have played such a big role in helping us learn, because I think in some ways they typify the work that we all still have the opportunity to do together. One of these individuals is here. It's J.D. Fugate, who has played a key role on these issues inside our department. And the other is someone I know many of you know, who's on the other side of the country today, or at least he should be if he's doing his job, and that's Greg McCurdy, who's been part of our department as well. And both of these individuals are tremendously outgoing individuals who have been real leaders, and they haven't been bashful. And that's been really important because it's often taken people who've been willing to step forward and provide the good advice that the rest of us need in order to, frankly, get good and then hopefully do more than just be good and try to make a contribution on these kinds of diversity issues more broadly. There are three things that we've tried to do as a company and as a department, and you really referred to them. We've really strived to be generous in doing the right thing for our employees and trying to provide the kinds of benefits that they and their families need. And this has been something that has been true of Microsoft for a long, long time, and happily I think it's been true of our industry, especially on the West Coast, for a long, long time. Second, we've strived to use our voice in advocacy on important legislative issues in Washington State and in Washington, D.C. We have had the chance to do that, as you mentioned, over the last couple of years, both in the legislature and through this wonderful process that gives the entire electorate of Washington State a second opportunity to vote on what the legislature has already voted to adopt. But we've really tried to step forward, as you mentioned, as a company and as individuals, and I don't think that's done yet. I think that we all recognize that there are going to be more issues And I think 2012 is probably going to be an important year for these kinds of issues here in Washington State. And without getting ahead of ourselves, I certainly want to let all of you know that this is something that is top of mind to us in the leadership ranks at Microsoft. And just as we played what I think and hope was a constructive and helpful and even leadership role over the last couple of years, we want and hope and are committed to playing a similar role in the next couple of years as well. And then certainly in the legal profession, in the legal community, we've really strived, as we've used our voice on advocacy issues, to sort of use our budget and put our money where our mouths are with bonuses for the major law firms that are doing a lot of work for us, and reward them with bonuses on an annual basis for diversity. It's been important to do that in general, and it's been important to do that for LGBT diversity in particular, and we've really strived to do that. And so with each of these things, we constantly work to do a little bit better each and every year. I would say, I think that you all have a special opportunity and I think a special role to play on these issues. Because as we all think about diversity and all of the diverse groups around the country and around the world, the truth is, if you look back at history, if you look over time, different groups have had to be in the front line on diversity issues at different points in time. This is a time when you all are in the front line. And this is a time when you are winning. And I think that makes it a very important time. The battles are not won. I mean, that's clear. The war is not over. But the tide has shifted. And I think it's quite remarkable to see the progress that we're starting to make as a country, across the country, in changing people's minds and winning people's attitudes and support. And there's some real momentum on which to build. I think that this is important across the legal profession, and it will be important, I think, in a state like Washington over the next couple of years. And as you all are in the front line, I know that it's not always a very comfortable place to be. But as you're there, I hope that you'll keep in mind a few things. First, you're not alone. I think it's important for companies like ours to stand up and stand there with you and know that we are not only there with your back, but we are there with you, and we want to be with you, and we want to be supportive. Second, I hope that you'll keep in mind that on those days that may seem difficult, you're doing great things not only for yourselves, but for every diverse community. Because when you're winning or when you're making a statement, it's the kind of statement that resonates and just reminds everyone of the importance of diversity, not only for the LGBT community, as important as that is, but for every diverse community, because I do think diversity is the kind of issue where at some level, everybody sort of stands or falls together, because it does really require a real appreciation for the value of diversity and the value that different diverse communities bring, especially when we all have the opportunity to benefit from each other and learn from each other. And third, the last thing I would hope you'll continue to do is speak up. Not just speak up in public, and not just speak up to people when they're not doing the right thing, but continue to speak up and let people like us and companies like Microsoft know what we can do better. Tell us what you need from us. Because the truth is, it really goes back to one of the first lessons that I learned, and I think Mary and I had the opportunity to learn together. It starts with allies who have good intentions, but it takes allies who have good intentions and are well informed and know when they can help and when their help is needed and the right way to help. And so just like JD and just like Greg, don't be bashful. Tell us what we need to know. Tell us even when you think you might risk offending us, because you probably won't. We're lawyers after all. It's pretty hard to take offense. But I think that it is one of the great causes of our time that all of you are working to address. And just as we can get together here in 2011 and think back to the advances that were made 5 decades ago on civil rights, there will be a time when people will meet in this building 5 decades from now. And I think we should all hope, and with some optimism even aspire to believe that 5 decades from now they will look back and this battle will have been won. This particular war will be over. But it will only be because people like you have been prepared to stand up and be out and proud. And part of that includes helping the rest of us really do the best that we can with your advice and guidance on where we can make a difference. So I'm pleased to be here on behalf of our department. It is something that we believe in. We're pleased that we've made some progress, but actually that's not what is important. I think what is important is the progress we have still in front of us. And working together with your advice and help and with our energy and support, let's really see what we can go do here in Washington State and across the country and around the world in the years ahead. So thank you very much.